Hello, welcome to Souls Intersect. This reading is for Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising signs, and it is for the month of June 2017. If you're interested in a private reading with me, feel free to check out my site. The address is below. There is also a link to the page where I go into more detail about my readings. So feel free to check that out. I discuss my approach, which is slightly different from some readers. I'm an intuitive reader, and that's the primary focus of my readings. I use the cards as kind of a frame or sometimes as prompts to point me in the right direction, and I go into more detail about that. So feel free to check it out. I also discuss my past life readings, which are non-tarot readings that I do, and I've permanently reduced the price of those to $35. All right, so I'm going to take you through the cards first, and then I will tune in further. So starting at the top left, you have the Page of Wands, the Four of Swords, and the Two of Swords. In the center row, the Fool, the Four of Wands, and the King of Wands. And on the bottom, the Six of Pentacles, the Two of Cups, and the Page of Swords. Okay. So two fours and two pages, two twos, and then the only major arcana being the Fool. I'm sensing right away that there is some decisions being faced, especially in relationships. Not so much to do with staying or leaving or that kind of thing, but more so, but pretty powerful for some of you. So things to do with changing direction in some way, possibly changing family dynamic, like deciding whether or not to have children or another child, deciding where to live, or something else maybe to do with jobs also, with this Six of Pentacles and how things are budgeted. Some of you are definitely considering a brand new beginning. It feels like for those of you who are coupled up that's something you would do together. I don't necessarily sense a departure from someone, though it might turn into that for some of you. But this feels like that would be of your own free will. So it doesn't, I'm not sensing, someone walking away. Just a change that for some of you might look like you walking away. Definitely a lot to do with children with these two pages. And for those of you who don't have children, I'll take a look at what those pages might mean otherwise. And I would also say that this for some of you who are not in a partnership, by the way, I definitely sense a possible change in location for work. Home doesn't necessarily mean a new city or state, but possibly for some of you. Okay, the King of Wands feels to me like a very featured person in your life this month. This could be the partner for those of you who are partnered up, possibly a husband, possibly someone new coming in. And if that doesn't apply, I'm seeing a link between this King of Wands and the Six of Pentacles. So that's going to be strongest for those of you in a partnership. It probably has to do with the changes or shifts having to do with budgeting and things like that. And for those of you who have met someone, it's possible that you met this person through work or in doing something financial related to yourself. Okay, this person feels like a very positive influence in your life and very strong. I feel like there's a strong compatibility here. And I feel like this person is featured because they're a strong part of whatever this decision is. And that's, of course, going to be the case if it is actually your partner. But if not, I definitely sense that this person is going to play a role in some way in this decision making. So it might be because of their expertise, but it might just be because of their friendship or even just their presence. This feels like someone who is very mature and also loves to have fun. and can kind of navigate between being serious and enjoying themselves, and that feels like that's what's needed for you, because there's definitely a stuckness with some of this decision making, with the 2 4s being there and the 2 2s. But because it's one of them is the 2 of Cups, I really do sense a strong joint decision and supporting each other in this decision. So emotionally, it feels like there's a lot of support, but it feels like some of the stuckness has to do more with trying to decide which way your energy is being pulled and thoughts about it. So feeling like a mental block in a way, especially with the 4 and the 2 of Swords next to each other. I'm not getting 5, so not too much of things in disarray or chaos. So again, it feels like there's a good balance. I feel like it's because you have a good head on your shoulders, and also because this person feels like a good influence in your life. With the 2 pages, if you have children, I feel like the decision and maybe some of the toughness around the decision has to do with what they want or need, depending on their age, and that feeling like it's pulling you in 2 different directions. I see them at these 2 different ends, and kind of, for maybe older children, expressing their own will or desire, or younger children, you taking into consideration some really strong needs that they might have. This might represent their signs. One might be a fire sign, one might be an air sign, but it could also be the focus of their needs or their will has more to do with the air element for the Swords. So mental willpower, the way they're expressing it, the way that they are thinking about something might be influencing your decision in some way. And then with the Page of Wands, a creative need or a spiritual need or something that has to do with an action that they've taken recently that's also influencing your decision, and possibly pulling it in a different direction from the other child. And it might not be 2 children, it could be 1 for those of you with children, with multiple things going on here. And it could also be that the child is torn themselves. For those of you without children, I sense that the pages are still representing reasons why you're feeling torn, and it would fall into the description of some of the things I just discussed. So the way you're thinking about it on one hand, but what action you think would be best to take, where you feel drawn more spiritually, like what has the stronger pull for you versus what you think might be more rational. So it feels like that's the difficulty of this decision. And it's interesting because the Page of Wands is corresponding to the 4 of Wands, and the Page of Swords corresponding to the 4 of Swords, both being things that haven't been fully completed yet and are still in the process of impacting your decision, but both causing sort of a standstill. So I'm going to come back to the Fool, and just looking at this center row, because the 4 of Wands can also represent that kind of spiritual home, that home space, that homestead, almost like the hearth to me. And I feel that energy with this King of Wands person, and it's a corresponding sign. The Fool is also fire energy. My sense is that in making this decision and in helping yourself with it, the answer is in that fire energy. So when all is said and done, in other words, all that we have in the center row is fire, and you would cast aside, or at least put on the back burner, the Pentacles, which are not in that row, even the Cups. So like what you think would make you most emotionally fulfilled, because you might not know the answer to that right now. So putting that on the back burner, and then all the Swords energy as well, because too much thinking can always be detrimental, can often be detrimental. So looking at putting those aside and looking solely at this fire energy, and more specifically what makes you feel most at home, and kind of this following your heart with the Four of Wands. The King of Wands, what decisions you come to with this positive influence in your life, whether it's your partner or someone else. And then what you feel, number one, like you can put the most faith into, but it's also has to do with following your heart with this Fool card, but also a hint that you might have to take a leap, because if you're following the fire energy, again, you might not know the answers to some of the other stuff, like the money, how emotionally fulfilled you're going to be, how rational it seems, or why doesn't it seem rational. If the decision to follow your heart doesn't seem rational, that's what's pulling you in these different directions. So because you're setting those other things aside and following your heart, you might have to take a leap without those other things being in order. And it's a really strong message, because this, again, is the only major arcana. And one of the strongest messages about the Fool is a leap of faith. But the good thing about this reading is that it's not completely blind, because I feel like you will know what your heart's desire is. And you also have, it feels like, a strong influence from this fire sign, or this, whoever this King of Wands is. So you have some more to go off of than somebody with just a completely blind leap of faith, I think. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up here. If you have any questions about it, feel free to email me or comment. And I hope you have a great month of June. Take care.